I never thought a couple of dumbbells and a treadmill would lead to war. It all started a few months into 2023. Like a lot of people after the pandemic, I had gotten used to working out at home. My garage had slowly evolved from a cluttered storage unit into a full-blown home gym. Rubber flooring, a squat rack, a bench, free weights, even a compact rowing machine. Nothing excessive. I didn't blast music. I didn't invite buddies over for deadlift parties. I just liked to work out at 6 a.m. before work, headphones in, garage door shut, minding my own business. Until one morning, I got a letter from the HOA. The envelope was a little too formal, one of those stiff, pre-folded types with a notice of violation stamp on the outside. I knew it wasn't good news, but I didn't expect the complaint to be about my garage. According to the letter, my garage gym violated Section 14B of the HOA's community regulations, a rule I had never even heard of, stating that garages must be used primarily for the storage of motor vehicles and not as a living or commercial space. Living space? Commercial? I wasn't running a spin class. I was just lifting weights next to my toolbox. I sent a polite email back, clarifying that I wasn't operating a business and that everything was strictly for personal use. I even included photos showing my car still parked in the driveway. I simply preferred the gym indoors, where I could control the temperature. A week later, I got a response from the HOA president himself, Alan. Alan was exactly what you'd expect from a suburban tyrant with too much time and a laminated name tag. Retired early from some finance job, always wore cargo shorts and New Balance sneakers, and spent his afternoons walking the neighborhood with a clipboard and a smug sense of purpose. His email was short, smug, and signed off with "warm regards." He said the board had reviewed my case and decided that my garage gym was non-compliant and needed to be dismantled within 14 days or I'd face daily fines. I was stunned. I tried appealing. I even offered to leave the garage door open during the day to prove it wasn't being used as a living space. But Alan wasn't interested in compromise. He cited precedent and told me my case was closed. That's when I started noticing the little things. Suddenly, I was getting passive-aggressive letters for things like weeds in the sidewalk cracks and trash can visibility. My next-door neighbor, Claire, who I barely knew, started giving me weird looks when I pulled into the driveway. The kind of look that says, "I know what you did and I'm not sorry about it." So I started asking around. Turns out, Alan didn't act alone. My neighbor, Claire, had lodged the original complaint. She'd apparently mentioned to Alan during one of their HOA coffee chats that she was concerned about the strange thudding noises coming from my garage each morning, claimed it was disturbing her dog's sleep, and Alan, he was more than happy to enforce the rules, especially when it came to setting an example. I spent that weekend packing up the gym I'd spent months building. Barbells, gone. Squat rack, gone. I rolled up the flooring like I was erasing a part of my life. I had nowhere else to store it, so I shoved everything into a rental unit a few miles away. My morning routine, my peace, my therapy. All of it uprooted because my neighbor's dog was a light sleeper. But it didn't end there. About a week after I cleared the gym, I was out walking my dog when I saw Claire standing on her porch, waving goodbye to a group of tourists loading their suitcases into a van. That was odd. I didn't realize Claire had guests, especially ones from out of town. Then, later that night, I saw her porch lights go on again. More people. Another set of suitcases. It happened again the next weekend. Different guests, always polite, always gone within a few days. And Claire, she was suddenly a lot more cheerful. New patio furniture, upgraded mailbox, even a little welcome sign by the front door. That's when it clicked. I checked Airbnb, typed in my zip code, narrowed the search, and there it was. Charming suburban escape, 3BR, cozy vibes, dog-friendly. The photos were unmistakable. That was Claire's house. The furniture matched, even the stupid dog bed in the corner. I kept scrolling. The listing had over 40 reviews. She'd been running this rental for months, and I knew for a fact our HOA strictly prohibited short-term rentals under 30 days. Suddenly, I wasn't just annoyed. I was furious. These people had shut down my private gym over a made-up rule, while secretly turning their house into a revolving door of weekend tourists, and Alan, Mr. HOA president himself, had approved it Or was he just turning a blind eye? I didn't know yet, but I was going to find out. And if they thought I'd just quietly move my dumbbells and move on, they were about to learn something new about me. I don't forget. I don't forgive. And I read the fine print. After discovering Claire's Airbnb listing, I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every smug HOA email in my head. The hypocrisy was unbearable. I got fined for lifting weights in my garage, and she was quietly running a business out of her house. No, this wasn't going to end with me backing down. If they were going to weaponize the rules, I was going to master the rule book. The next morning, I went online and downloaded the entire HOA charter. 62 pages of fine print and contradictory clauses, most of it in 10-point font. I printed the whole thing, grabbed a red pen, and started reading like it was a legal thriller. It took 3 days and a lot of coffee, but I found exactly what I needed. Section 8, paragraph D. No lot or dwelling unit shall be rented or leased for periods of fewer than 30 consecutive days without prior written approval from the HOA board. Repeated short-term rentals shall be deemed commercial activity and are strictly prohibited. I highlighted it 3 times. There was no gray area here. Claire was violating the rules. Repeatedly, brazenly, and Alan, who once threatened to fine me $50 per day for leaving my trash bin visible for 6 extra hours, was doing nothing. So I kept digging. I checked the meeting minutes from the last 6 months. All HOA board minutes were legally required to be posted online for community access, but conveniently, the ones for the last quarter were pending upload. I emailed the property management company and requested a copy. I posed as a concerned resident with questions about rental activity in the neighborhood. No one suspected anything. What they sent me confirmed what I already suspected. Claire had never requested approval for short-term rentals, not once. Now, I could have reported her to the HOA directly, but something told me that Alan would find a way to bury it. After all, Claire was one of his people, the weekly lawn walkers, the pool rules enforcers, the kind who got invited to board meetings even when they weren't board members. So instead of going to Alan, I decided to get creative. I started by documenting everything. I took screenshots of Claire's Airbnb page. I saved every listing photo, every review date, every guest comment. I noted the check-in, check-out patterns, proving that most stays were 2-3 nights max. I even caught license plates on security camera footage as guests came and went, all time-stamped. Then I looked into Claire's listings across multiple platforms. That's when things got even more interesting. Turns out she wasn't just on Airbnb. She had the same property listed on Vrbo and Booking.com under a slightly different name. I only found it because one of her listing photos still had her dog's name stitched on a blanket in the background. Rookie mistake. She was double, triple, dipping. And from the reviews, it looked like she'd been doing this for well over a year. I started calculating rough income based on her booking calendar. Even at conservative estimates, she was clearing at least $2,000, $3,000 a month, probably more during holidays. No license, no approvals, no business tax ID listed anywhere. That's when it hit me. Forget the HOA. Forget Alan. This wasn't just a community rules issue. This was a federal one. So I pulled up the IRS website. I'd never done this before, but I found what I needed in a few minutes. The IRS has a Form 30949A, for reporting suspected tax fraud. It lets you report unlicensed business income, especially for people making money through platforms like Airbnb without disclosing it. I took my time. I filled out every section with precision. I listed all the websites Claire was using, provided screenshots of the listings, estimates of income, and noted her failure to get approval from the HOA as further evidence that she was operating under the radar. I included her name, address, and even her business aliases, everything public or verifiable. I submitted the form anonymously, but I wasn't done. The next step, the county. In our area, running a short-term rental requires a local business license, plus a short-term rental permit from the county zoning office. Claire had neither. I confirmed it with a 2-minute call. So I sent the zoning office a neat little email. Once again, anonymously concerned, attaching her listings and a nice list of unregistered rental activity. Then, as the cherry on top, I sent a formal, certified letter to the HOA's full board, not just Alan, citing the exact clause Claire was violating, with a printout of her listings and the estimated number of violations based on review dates. I didn't accuse anyone. I just asked a simple question. If I'm not allowed to use my garage for personal workouts, is it acceptable for someone to run an unlicensed hotel next door? 3 days later, the Airbnb listing vanished. So did the Verbo one and the Booking.com one, but I wasn't done watching, because the IRS doesn't move quickly, but when they do, they don't miss. A few weeks passed, and on the surface, everything seemed normal. Claire still walked her dog in the evenings. Alan still rode his golf cart around the neighborhood like he was patrolling a private military base. But beneath the forced smiles and chirpy hellos, something had shifted. The Airbnb guests? Gone. Completely. No more weekend suitcases. No more unfamiliar cars parked on the curb. The house next door looked quieter than ever, and oddly, Claire did too. Her bubbly attitude had evaporated. Her welcome sign was gone. The patio furniture, stacked in the corner, unused. Something was brewing, and I could feel it. Then, about 3 weeks later, the first crack appeared. It started with a note posted on the HOA's online bulletin board. Someone, not me, had anonymously posted a copy of Section 8, Paragraph D, highlighting the ban on short-term rentals. No commentary, no accusations, just the rule and the line. Why are the rules only enforced for some of us? That little post sent a ripple through the community. Suddenly, other neighbors started chiming in. Didn't the Johnsons host a wedding party last month? I've seen strangers at 1143 every weekend for the last year. Why did Steve get fined for a backyard trampoline but others run businesses? Alan tried to shut it down, posting a message insisting that the board is aware of all ongoing activity and responds appropriately to violations, but no one was buying it. The damage was done. And Claire? She was starting to sweat. I noticed her car was missing from the driveway more often. She looked over her shoulder when checking her mail. And once, I caught her sitting on the porch talking on her phone with a file folder in her lap and a very serious look on her face. Then came the knock. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was home early from work when I heard it. 3 sharp knocks on Claire's door. I peeked through the blinds and saw 2 people in plain clothes standing on her porch. They didn't look like cops, more like government agents. One of them held a slim black tablet. The other had a notepad. Claire opened the door cautiously, said something I couldn't hear, and they both flashed IDs. I watched her shoulders sink. The agents were inside for about 40 minutes. When they finally left, Claire stood at the door, stunned. She didn't wave goodbye. She didn't call out to them. She just stood there, pale, gripping the doorknob with both hands like she needed it to stay upright. That night, the panic began. At exactly 9:42 p.m., Claire posted a panicked message on the HOA forum. Due to a misunderstanding regarding community guidelines, I've voluntarily removed my property from all third-party rental platforms. Please respect my privacy during this time. Thank you. 3 minutes later, she deleted it, but not before half the neighborhood had already seen it and screenshot it. That weekend, Claire and Alan had a long, closed-door meeting at his house. I saw her walking over with a binder under her arm and her dog trotting behind her like a reluctant co-conspirator. She looked tired, hollow, like someone watching their little empire crumble brick by brick. What neither of them realized was, this wasn't just a neighborhood scandal anymore. The IRS doesn't send courtesy calls. They build cases quietly, methodically. They compare Airbnb payouts to reported income. They review bank deposits, 1099 forms, platform reporting, and once they confirm tax evasion, they make it hurt. About 2 weeks after the agents visited Claire, I got another letter from the HOA, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was a formal apology. Signed by the board excluding Alan, the letter acknowledged that my garage gym had been unfairly targeted due to a misinterpretation of community policy. They reversed my fines, stated I could use my garage as a personal recreational space, and even offered me a written exemption moving forward. No explanation, no mention of Claire, Just a quiet, white flag slipped under my door. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get better, it did. Claire's house went up for sale. The listing popped up on Zillow one morning with a cheery description about downsizing and life changes, but the real story was written all over her face the last time I saw her. She didn't wave, didn't smile. She just got in her car and drove away, slow and quiet. The empire was gone. No more guests, no more side hustle, no more HOA queen in the making. I never said a word to her, never gloated, never even hinted that I was behind any of it, because the best revenge is making sure your enemies know you didn't break the rules, you just made sure they finally had to follow them. No surprise, really. The neighborhood was nice, good schools, tree-lined sidewalks, and now a little less hypocrisy than before. The new buyers seemed normal, a retired couple from out of state who just wanted peace and quiet. I liked them immediately. Claire's exit wasn't dramatic. No yard sale, no goodbye party, just a quiet, moving van early on a Tuesday morning and a for sale sign that vanished as fast as it appeared. I watched from my garage, now fully restored to gym glory, as her SUV pulled out of the neighborhood for Ta. Last time, I didn't feel triumphant, just finished, like the last chapter of a long, unfair story had finally ended. But Alan was still a problem. He didn't step down, didn't even flinch. Even after the backlash over Claire's rentals, the IRS whispers, and the HOA board's public reversal on my case, he carried on like nothing happened. The smugness returned. He doubled down on nitpicking, measuring grass height, emailing warnings for non-regulation mailbox flags, even sending out a community-wide reminder about trash bin visibility hours. Clearly a subtle jab at me, so I made a decision. It was time to hit him where it really hurt, the HOA election. See, in most neighborhoods, no one wants to deal with HOA politics. That's how guys like Alan get power in the first place. Apathy. People don't show up, so the loudest retiree with a clipboard wins by default. But I wasn't apathetic anymore. I was motivated. And I wasn't alone. The Claire situation had left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Her favoritism, the selective enforcement, the Airbnb drama. There was now a quiet but growing resentment among residents, especially the ones who had been fined, warned, or publicly embarrassed while Alan's friends got away with whatever they wanted. I started small, knocked on a few doors, chatted with neighbors, brought up the idea of balance on the board, of having someone who actually followed the same rules as everyone else. People nodded. They remembered what happened. I wasn't asking them to overthrow anything, just to show up, just to vote. Then I ran for a board seat, not president, just a position. I didn't want to seem like I was coming for Alan, even though, yeah, I absolutely was. My campaign was simple: fairness, consistency, and community. I wasn't flashy. I didn't hang signs or pass out cookies. I just asked questions. Why do some people get cited and others don't? Why are the rules applied like weapons instead of guidelines? Wouldn't it be nice if the board actually listened to residents? Apparently, it worked. Election day came, and for the first time in 5 years, there was a real turnout. Over 60 households cast ballots, triple the usual number. And when the results came in, I won. So did 2 other first-time candidates. Alan, he barely held on to his presidency by 1 vote. But the board had shifted. He was now the president of a board that didn't rubber stamp his nonsense anymore. No more personal crusades, no more retaliatory fines. Every policy proposal now went to a vote. And more often than not, Alan lost. He still sent out his long-winded emails, still did his little neighborhood tours, but the power, that was gone. A few months in, he resigned for personal reasons, said he wanted to spend more time with his grandkids. No one asked questions, no one threw a party, and just like that, Alan was done. It felt poetic. The same man who told me my garage couldn't be used for recreational activity was now quietly enjoying retirement, while I, officially and legally, worked out every morning under new HOA-approved LED lights, surrounded by the very equipment I'd once been forced to pack up. I didn't become president. I didn't need to. I got my garage back. I got my peace back. And more than anything, I got justice, the long way around. Because revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be cruel. Sometimes it's just about knowing how the system works better than the people who weaponize it. Sometimes the best revenge is doing everything by the book and still winning.